Good morning, Unity family and friends. I greet you in love as we worship together for the glory of God. And I give God thanks for yet another opportunity to share a message with you during this stay-at-home period. And I want to let you know that our message today will be entitled, "This Too Shall Pass." And the scripture is taken from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16, part of verse 16 and verses 17 to 18. So we do not lose heart, for this slight momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. Here ends the reading of the scripture. And I am going to speak about this theme of "This Too Shall Pass" in relation to two events. One, the situation with Noah and the ark that is told in Genesis chapter 6 verses 14 to 16 and chapter 7 verse 13. And the second, so that is one of the incidents. And the second will be those 12 Thai boys or young men and their football coach, and that happened somewhere in 2018. And I've chosen these two events, one from biblical times and one in our living memory, to demonstrate to us that during uncertainty we can hold to the truth. And from these two quite remarkable events, we can take heart and take courage that whatever we are going through will pass. And with our faith in God, when it passes, the outcome will be good. And you would remember from the story of Noah that God foretold Noah that there would be a flood it would rain for 40 days and 40 nights. And Noah, who was obedient to God, Noah followed the directions to build his ark and to, take his wife and his children and all the animals, two of each kind and so on. And because Noah was prepared, unlike the situation today with COVID, and I would liken COVID today to one of those, Unity, we say, is a school of Christianity. And in school, we have those tests. Some of them are prearranged, like CXC and so on, and you know the dates and the schedules, and you have timetables. But as you go along when you were at school and so on, there would be some impromptu tests. Teachers would just come, and sometimes if you didn't answer a question they expected or whatever, they may just spring a test on you. So the situation we are going through with COVID, I would liken to this impromptu test. And it brings with it a certain measure of uncertainty. And it is although Noah had been foretold of the rains for the 40 days and 40 nights, the flooding that resulted from those rains lasted 150 days. And it is clear from the events as they are told that there must have been some uncertainty as to when the flooding would subside, because we know Noah sent out the raven first, and then he sent out the dove. He sent the dove out twice, and it is when the dove, the second time, or when the dove came back with an olive branch, then Noah knew that the floods were subsiding, and it would be safe for him and his family and so to leave the ark. And we know metaphysically, Noah means quick, calm, peace, and the ark is our holy abode, sanctuary, the spiritual part in the midst of the flood of error, so says Charles Fillmore in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. So we build our ark on the scientific understanding of the wisdom, presence, and power of God, on an affirmation of what is true and what our oneness in spirit. So by laying hold of spiritual ideas as the only reality and declaring spirit to be all in all, one is lifted above and finds oneself with Jehovah in perfect safety. So during this period of uncertainty, as we heard from some previous lessons, starting after the Easter period, and Jill talked about God as a mother, father, the nurturer, the caring, Martin, control of our thoughts, and before that, Doreen, lifting up, and last week, Reverend Rawlings, reminding us to choose who we shall serve. We know that in times of uncertainty, we have to ensure that our ark, that calm place within us, that spiritual sense within us, is well fortified to withstand the so-called errors of the time. And so when I reflected on, our situation, current situation, because we don't know when it really would come to an end. We know the economy is opening back up and so on, and more things are happening, and people are going back out to work, those who were not at work, and more activity, but yet there is still some uncertainty, and there is what many are referring to as a new normal. But apart from all the outer, we know that everything begins from within. And so we have to prepare and dwell in that ark, which is our secret place of the Most High within us, and remain as Noah, the Noah in us, calm and peaceful and tranquil in spite of all the seeming turbulence on the outside. And then I thought, as I very often think about those 12 Thai young men and their football coach, that was in 2018. I consider that our modern day, at least one modern day miracle, because sometimes you read about the stories in the Bible and there are schools of thought, whether they happen, whether it's just allegory and so on and so forth. But this incident with those young men happened in our living memory, and because again of television and cameras and technology, we were present at almost every stage of the unfolding of that situation. And what the uncertainty in that, when it happened, they found themselves in a cave, They were lost for 9 days. And in those 9 days, what was the reaction of the world? Oh, they could never come out alive. Most people, oh this, oh that, and again, a lot of doubts and naysaying. But there was also a lot of prayerful affirmation, and there was a lot of quick action on the part of persons, some of whom did not even know those boys from different continents, scientists, divers, and so they all came together. And eventually, after 9 days, they were found. Miraculous indeed. In an underground cave that was flooded, but they had found themselves in an area that was free from the flood. They didn't have much food and so on. But the football coach, who was a Buddhist, he was able, and a number of those young men as well, as far as I can remember, followed the Buddhist tradition. And he was able, and they were all able to remain calm and peaceful, which is part of one of the reasons that it is believed that they were found in such good condition. So the finding was one miracle. How to get them out? That was the second stage. And at least I understand 1,000 divers and scientists and water specialists, because the caves were flooded and they had to pump lots of water out, and they had to strategize how would they get these young men out. And the caves were such that at some points in the cave you had to take off all of the diving equipment and so on. Again, naysayers, oh, they would not be able to come out. Some said, oh, they can't come out until months from now, and blah blah blah. But eventually those who were strategizing and thinking about it said they had to come out sooner rather than later, before all the rains came. And so they came up with the plan and so on, and the rest is history. And it took some doing. It took a lot of doing, and patience and faith and belief in the fact that it could be done in spite of the uncertainty, because it was what we would call a very dicey situation. But those young men and all those who were involved in the rescue had the faith to go for it and to believe that it could happen. And anytime I feel a little inclined to feel, doubt a situation, that situation springs to my mind immediately. Because in my view, that was an awesome show of the power of God, which he executed through men, through their wisdom, their scientific knowledge, all the skills. But at the back of it, in my view, was the power and the presence of God. And it passed. It's for the 9 days when they were awaiting the finding of the young men, there was uncertainty, but it passed. It took another 15 days, I think, for them to finally emerge from the caves. And that too has passed, and passed miraculously. Regrettably, there was loss of one life. One young diver lost his physical life, but we know life is eternal, and we know that he, no doubt, is well on his way, having sacrificed his life to find and bring those young men out. So, beloved, let us keep the faith at this time. Know that this too shall pass. Let us use that place of peace within us, that Noah, that calm spirit within us, to build our ark, our fortress, our spiritual fortress, which we know we build through our meditation, our prayer, controlling our thoughts, doing the work, as Auntie Doreen reminded us. We have to do the work. It's individual work that must be done, just to bring forth what God has already declared and decreed, His absolute unfailing goodness. And so I thought that this would be a nice time to share these words with you, these thoughts, and this message that this too shall pass. And that phrase is one that is often used, in a biblical sense, but apparently, as I found out, there is no such translation of a phrase, this too shall pass, in the Bible. But one of the scripture reading in 2 Corinthians, I think that has the same meaning. And so I leave you with the second verse of the daily word, which is on faith, and which I think is very appropriate for this message, because in these times of seeming uncertainty, in order to really let go and let God and know that what we are going through is going to come to an end, and to expect a good end, we need that faith to take us through. And so the window word for today, Sunday, May 24, 2020 is faith. I invest my faith only in possibilities for good. And the second verse, which is more appropriate to what the message says, the divine faculty of faith that is part of my spiritual inheritance is more valuable than money. I invest my faith wisely by believing and trusting that possibilities for good are present, even where good has not yet manifested. And I act on that belief. My positively directed faith brings rich rewards in consciousness. And that is what the ark is about. That's what the story of Noah is about. We are to build our consciousness in a positively directed way, using our faith. And we know that this too shall pass. Thank you, and blessings to all of you and all of us.